This week, I've sat down with Lucy Carlin, who is an account strategist here at CG, and talks about how we position our clients as pillars of their community during COVID. Listen on as we share our key learnings. It's one you don't want to miss. Hello Lucy, how are you?
Hi Simon, I'm good. How are you?
I'm awesome, thank you. And continuing with the theme of kind of engaging with clients to talk about topics, today we've chosen to talk about using social media for good. And when I saw this headline, without going into all the detail, it's a really interesting topic for me because I feel that there is a lot of bad that comes with social media, and I think I'm very aware of it. I think, as a dad, I am, seeing what's gone on with the Premiership football clubs doing the boycotting and all the trolling and stuff. And in a podcast I did last week with Hannah, we actually, talked about trolling and the fact that social media channels should take more responsibility, like the owners, on sort of getting rid of that but there's a lot of good that comes from social media as well, and I don't think that gets any airtime. So I think it would be nice that, obviously we're going to talk about it from a corporate perspective and what we do, but I think I just want to start by talking about some of the things that I think people forget about. So one for me is, I am 40 this year.
Really?
Yeah, I know, I don't look it. But there are people that are still in my life because of Facebook. Simple as that. And I think that's a blessing. So
definitely.
One example is one of my very, very good friends from school came over on a cricket scholarship from Barbados. And we lost touch. It's, when I was 19, 20 years ago, it was, the world was a very different place.
Yeah.
And we connected through Facebook when Facebook became a thing. And, he messaged me one day going, "Are you still in Newcastle, Simon?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Why?" He's like, "I've come over for a year to do a master's," and we reconnected. If Facebook hadn't existed, we never would have done.
Yeah.
And, we spent a year and a half together. He spent Christmas with us. He's Millie, my eldest godfather. I went to his wedding. I was usher at his wedding. And that would never have happened.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one thing for me that is really personal to me. That I think there is good that comes from social. I just just before we delve into some of the topics, just be interested to hear your take on it, really.
No, I completely agree. I mean, one thing that I found over the last year as well is I connected with people that I hadn't spoken to in a long time. So people I went to uni with. So I went to uni in Glasgow. I did, yeah. I was there for 5 years, so it was quite a long time. But yeah, there was loads of people that I was having Zoom calls with them, which previously never would have done. You'd maybe say happy birthday to each other and things like that. But it was never... You were never really connected again on that level, and because you had all this spare time, you just ended up reaching out to people and you wanted to know how they were doing. So for example, if someone's parent is vulnerable, then you want to make sure that they're okay and reach out and just see how they're doing, which is something that normally in everyday life
you wouldn't do.
You're a bit busy, you don't really it's at the back of your mind, unfortunately, but that's the case.
Well, it is, and because you can be quite passive but still keep in touch with people. And how they say, the internet makes the world a smaller place? It does, but I think social media actually makes the world a smaller, or certainly facilitates that, because when the internet first came round, it was MSN, it was all emails. It's thinking back what it was, smartphones didn't exist. The internet was dial-up.
Nudging people on MSN. Yeah, you couldn't go on the internet if your mum was on the phone and stuff like that.
How annoying was that? or you'd pick up the phone to ring somebody,
And the
internet was creaking. It's a horrible noise. Like kids of today won't know the shit that we had to deal with. I think that's a good one. Another one for me, and I think this kind of will allow us to sort of delve a little bit more into commercial, the sort of commercial application of the good of social media is awareness and or fundraising that happens. I'll always try and go out my way when I see somebody doing a fundraise for something, like, Just Giving would not have the clout that it has, and the Virgin equivalent, they would not have the clout they have if it wasn't for social.
Oh, 100%.
And like even things like the Ice Bucket Challenge and the awareness raised for ALS, and a lot of, like one that's quite close to Curtis Gabriel's heart is, just Purple Day for that we always raise awareness for, with Matty being epileptic, and I always do stuff with him. Again, that's stuff that we use that outlet of social media to do. So I know that there's a lot of shit and the online bullying and, the materialistic side of social and the effects it can have on mental health. Yeah. But I think that's one thing. And I do think that's an education thing. And again, I think social media came around so quickly that nobody really knew how to do it. And certainly me, who had an analogue childhood, I just looked at all the benefits of it. And I remember talking to my friend about this, who's a similar age. We were out walking, shock, because what else can you do with your friends in a pandemic? And we were actually talking about how we just focused on the positives, like being able to keep in touch with people, even before that with the internet, smartphones, because the two kind of came hand in hand, just being able to get live scores on your phone. Like, we wouldn't think anything different to that, but 10 years ago, that wasn't a thing.
No, you would never be able to think you could do that.
But it came around so quickly, and a younger generation, younger than me, who really in their informative years just got given this technology without any regulation, any education, any supervision. And I think that a lot of the negativity came from that. Whereas now, my 5-year-old, Grace, came home last week and said, "Daddy, you should never give your details to anyone online." I was like, "You're right, Grace." But so that's been drilled into them from school. But then because we're aware now of the negative things, we're really, as parents, we're really keen to, monitor screen time, be aware of that. So I actually don't think in my kids' generation, when they are teenagers and in their 20s, I don't think we'll see the mental health issues and the insecurities and the materialism that came from the previous generation, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got 3 nieces, 6, 8 and 11. The one that's 11 is just that age anyway. But when I look at the younger ones, like they're regulated in what they have, and they have iPads, but they're only allowed on certain days for a certain time. And again, they play. Do your kids play Roblox?
Yes.
Yeah, so they play Roblox, and they know not to give over any information and stuff like that. And like Evie, the little one, she gets scammed, but not real money. Like, she'll gift someone something and then they'll say they'll gift it back, but they don't. But like, it's not fraud or anything.
No.
But they learn from stuff like that. And I'm always really conscious as an auntie to watch what they're doing, especially all the different platforms now. If they don't have the PG version, then you just think, in the internet there is a lot of stuff that's on there, so you have to always, is done right, it's a really useful tool for kids, like the YouTube channels where you
YouTube
learn.
Kids. But I tell you something, you've always got to be careful, and there's a campaign about not leaving kids to their own devices on their devices, and I guess I always thought, no, it won't be like that, and I'm talking here about Grace, my 5-year-old, loves like cartoons with a real strong female lead, like She-Ra, who's the female like boss lady in He-Man, and stuff like that. But she went on my profile rather than hers, because on Netflix
Yeah.
And she chose, and because she's used to she doesn't know how to search, but she knows how to look at something and select it. But normally when she goes on her profile, she can just resume watching what she did.
Yeah.
But she went on mine, and she ended up watching she spotted a strong female lead, but it was like an 18 film called Eva or something.
All right.
And it was basically just, she was a superhero, and she ended up watching it and most of it, and then she came and said, "Oh, I've watched Ava. She's a bit naughty, Daddy." And I was like, and I looked through it, I was like, yes, she is. just like real quite graphic. So it's so, it is worth remembering. It could still happen, but imagine, 10 years ago when smartphones and social media came around, that would have just happened.
Yeah.
Netflix wasn't around then, but you get my point. But moving on to sort of what CG does, social media marketing. I think we've talked a lot about like our personal lives. Let's talk a bit about using social media for good for our clients. Now, you've done a lot of this, especially during the pandemic. So I think we sort of like positioning within, positioning companies within their community. And so talk to me a little bit about that and what we've done and so on.
Yeah, so I mean, it was just obviously for the transportation industry in particular, it just gone from being such a busy industry, it was really limited. So it was just about how do you keep the brand out there when they're not necessarily operating as much. And one of the huge things that we've learned overall as a country and as a world throughout the past year is community is everything. So whether it's clapping for carers, whether it's like giving recognition where recognition's due, and just sort of, sitting back and asking how are you and stuff like that. So that was something that, we really wanted to incorporate into our strategy, because things like driver recruitment, app downloads, driver recruitment was just a write-off. There was nothing you could do.
Because there was no work to bring drivers in for.
It was just a waste of time and a waste of money to go down that route. App downloads to an extent, but really community integration was key, and it's something that I think I've learned will always be there, no matter what.
We always used to do a bit of it.
Yeah.
And we used to be quite good at it, but now like we are really on it, and we've learned. It's interesting because through adversity you can always learn more. It's simple. People say learn from your mistakes. It's true. In this case, it wasn't mistakes. It was like we had no other option than to engage with the community. And I think there's 2 points I want to make. One is we actually use social media to identify stuff. So you talked about giving recognition. We also used it to identify people that were in need, because we had taxi owners that literally didn't have to do this.
No.
They had money in the bank. They could ride out the pandemic, but they chose to go and do food free pickups for people that were shielding for their medication, click and collect, but even going one step further and actual delivery of food parcels and so on and so on. But we were able to pick that up, and I think that was an incredibly good thing. And then
without a doubt.
But it was also nice to be able to shout about it, and that was something that we could do. But what the most fascinating thing about all of this is that our stats in terms of impressions, which is the number of people that see something, and engagements, the number of people that like, share, that do something with a post, doubled.
Yeah, they'd never be.
We had less clients,
yeah.
And our stats in that sector of our business, they doubled, and it was all down to that community activity, and it just shows the power of that. And it's actually really nice to reflect, because at first we were like, what on earth do we do here?
What are we going to do, yeah.
Because everything that we'd always done, we couldn't do. There was, and I'll always look back as that's one of the real success stories. And then, from that, we were able to then start adding in the safety aspects and their awareness, and people really gravitated towards a local taxi firm as a pillar within a community. And I think that they they will enjoy that loyalty on the back of that.
Yeah,
People won't forget
people will
what they did.
remember what they did. Free journeys for NHS workers, everything like that. You know,
that was another good one.
That was a really good one, and it was just so nice as well to like come up with these ideas, share them with the client, and for them to be really excited about them. And then, like you said earlier, you got really excited when you were sharing it, and you were proud of them when they sent photos with their masks on, transporting people, delivery parcels, dropping off water to hospitals, things like that. It was such a massive, and it was it was like a proud moment.
It
really.
was, and it was almost more rewarding.
Yeah.
And it's something like we said that we are going to continue to do, and obviously there was more opportunity, and there was less noise as well, because right at the beginning, because the world just ground to a halt. I was going to. It culminated in one of our clients being on the One Show as a thank you. So that was Rowley.
That was my client.
Yeah. And that was amazing. And it was, the thing was, he didn't do any of that for the publicity. We could just amplify it, and we worked with him and found stuff. We just did it because he wanted to help his community, and actually, taxi clients getting that credit because they do thousands and thousands of journeys, successful journeys every day, and then every now and again, one messes up, and everyone gets clobbered with that. There's a perception, isn't there, with that industry? So it was it was really nice. So we've talked about what happened during the pandemic, and we've touched on this, but I think the next thing to talk about is moving out of the pandemic, and I guess we're going to continue doing that, and we've got some. It'd be interesting to hear what you've been doing for some of those your clients along the lines of this sort of community activity. What are your lessons and your takeaways that you're continuing to do for your clients now?
So community is still a massive thing. Community groups have proved a very useful tool.
Do you think we do them? We engage with them more than we used to?
100%. I know I personally do. I always make a conscious effort to look for new groups, to engage in them. I've set up a group for one of my clients that was in Windsor it was set up by the company for the community to come together to find solutions to the problems and the causes in the community. And, within that group, you've got like local charity people, you've got business owners. Eventually, we want to get MPs in there. And it's just a nice platform where someone can share a cause that they're doing and everyone can sort of pitch in and help. And I just think that's something that we wouldn't have done a year ago. No,
and I think we'll, things like offering free rides to people in the community that need it or aid, again, is something we're going to continue with, isn't it?
And the discounts as well. Even if another client of mine offers a 20% discount, and for NHS and care workers, and they were giving away £1,000 a week in discounts, and half of the drivers were subsidising it, and then the company was subsidising the other half. So now they're moving it down to 10%. Just as a reflection of the year, but then they're still doing it £500 a week, and that's something that they're gonna keep doing, and commercially it's gonna drive them more business. So it's like it's win-win, and I think the real point here is that this activity drives loyalty. Yeah. Give back to the community, drive loyalty. As I say, people don't forget, and I think especially over Christmas, it's all about choosing local and choosing a local company. Been in the community 30 years, and where do they spend their money? Back in the community. The big guys don't. It's not even in the UK half the time, so it's all about that community chain of it. And that is a really good point. That micro marketing strategy, that real focused in community strategy, a behemoth like Uber, or if this is the US, Uber or Lyft, can never do that. No, they can't. So and linking it back to the topic, which is using social media for good, we wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for social. Yeah. It wouldn't have been practical. And I think I've said this a few times. Imagine if this pandemic had hit in like 1995.
it would have been a lot worse.
Oh, yeah, because he wouldn't have been able to
do all the things.
Connect and like, you know, the mental health crisis has been really bad in the past year, but, you know, I guess it has been a blessing that we can stay connected with people.
What could it have been?
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse, and it's already been pretty bad, so...
Yeah.
And that sort of ties onto another thing that I've been doing with my clients, so like mental health awareness is a huge thing that I do regularly. And, you know, going on to Mind, Samaritans, Shout, all the big ones, but then also just going on to Instagram and just finding like the independent artists that do these quotes. And even for me, like, it's a little boost for me a few times a week to read this quote. That's sort of like, you know, you'll get through it. This isn't going to last forever. Do you know, sometimes you just sort of need that boost. And then it's, again, in terms of engagement, it's something that the audience really resonates with, because they're having a bad day, see a nice quote, and then they think, oh, and then they look forward to it as well if it's a regular occurrence. So they think, oh, it's Wednesday, this company's going to put a nice quote out. I'm waiting for it, you know, so
and
it works in everyone's benefit.
Yeah, there's a theme here. It's giving back and generating business from it. And I think that's it. I think, you know, if you look at social media, it's so easy to give it a bad rep.
Yeah.
But it's like anything. It's like, you know, alcohol in moderation is okay. Too much of it, it's not good for you.
Yeah.
And it's no different with social. And I think people need to remember that. And when they're thinking about their digital strategy, especially post-pandemic, but even beforehand, it's you know, don't look at the negatives. Look at the positives. And I think that's the big takeaway from this.
Absolutely.
I have one incredibly important question to ask you.
Okay, I'm ready.
So I have to ask everybody as we wrap things up. What would if I'm buying, what would your Greg's order be?
You're buying?
I'm buying, and we'll go and get it. I'll go and get you after this.
So, multiple quantities of each of your
You can have as much as you want.
I'll have 10 vegan sausage rolls,
Okay.
10 vegan steak bakes, and 10 donuts.
Vegan donuts?
They are vegan. The glazed one with the rings. Fun fact.
Are you a vegan by any chance?
Imagine. No, I am.
No, just love it.
Can you imagine? But yeah, I mean, normally I would have one of each, but if you're offering, then
you've got to cash in. I like your thinking.
And that's my lunch for the week.
Yeah, happy days.
And
the weekend.
And the weekend, maybe a bit of dinner. So there you go.
Donuts or yum yums. I'm a yum yum kind of guy.
I do really enjoy a yum yum, but I can't have them anymore.
Because they're not vegan.
Got egg in.
Oh shit! Yeah, you know that.
It's annoying. Yeah, and I used to love an ice split as well. That was my go-to when I was little. And the cupcakes with the rings on. It's all a thing of the past.
It's a tough life.
It is. But they're bringing out loads of new stuff. So
and that's it. It's like anything. It's catching up with the trend, isn't it?
Oh, there's so much now. Like, I'm having a barbecue on Sunday for the bank holiday, and I'm literally like spoilt for choice. Going to spend a fortune.
Corn this. Good stuff.
Tesco. Really
That's
good.
amazing. That's amazing. Look, thank you so much for this. It's really insightful. I think it's a really important message in there.
Yeah.
Is, you know, there's a lot of good that can come out of social, and it's really nice to talk about it in our personal lives, but also from work as well. So Lucy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.